Greetings all, Dr. Raphael X here with another video on a very fascinating book to complete the legacy of the great Father Gabriele Amorth, God Most Powerful, right? It's a series of interviews. I think it's just one interview he did, and it's based question and answer format. Very interesting, all range of topics. But before anything else, let us begin with the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, so please subscribe to his channels. We always want to promote Catholic intellectualism. Also, share this video, leave a comment, a like, all that good stuff. I'm here with my friend from Sophia Press, Michael Litchens. Thanks for coming on to discuss this book with me.
It's great to join you again, Professor. Thank you again.
So this book is excellent. If you could talk a little bit about where, because I'm not sure when did he do this interview. This is an I don't know if there's a compilation of different. Uh, if it's all just one the same, or it's a compilation of different interviews he did because there's a whole range of topics dealt with. Theological, you get a lot of his experiences, those anecdotes that are always fascinating, and he even talks about the Freemasonry too. So if you could talk a little bit about the background of the book and why you guys decided to publish it.
Sure. So it's a series of interviews that were done with Father Angelo De Simone, who was also part of the Pauline order fraternity, started by Blessed Giacomo Alberoni. And the two of them talk about, like they said, everything. And it was published in 2015 originally in Italian, so just the year before Father Amorth's death. So this is sort of his last attempt to put out all his knowledge into the world. And we liked it. We've published a lot of Father Amorth at Sophia Institute Press. I've gotten to represent many of those books. I love Father Amorth. And what was nice about this is, as Father Amorth says in the very beginning, this is the good news. It's not the bad news that gets all the attention and the website clicks, but it's the good news we need to remember.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, no, it's and it's was what I like about this and the timing of it, it kind of counters that really bad movie they made about him. Um
Oh,
I didn't see it, but it kind and that coincided with the movie that was good, which wasn't as popular, Nefarious. But that
oh.
movie was a disaster. So this is kind of to counter a little bit. I mean, it's not specifically about his life, but just his deep theological dealings. And what I love about Father Amorth is that he almost the typical kind of character or temperament one would think an exorcist has. He did not have at all. He actually approached the bishop and said, "Well, we need an exorcist." And the bishop said, "Well, why don't you be the exorcist?" He's like, "Well," like he was a jokester type of guy, which no one would
Yes.
have ever assumed, right? Because of that, that gravitas that an exorcist has. So it's you see that portrayed about throughout that book too. He deals with things in a profound way, but also in a very colloquial sense, right? It's very accessible.
Mhm. It's very accessible, and it just show something I always like about Father Amorth is that he had a gentleness, a pastoral approach to everything. He wasn't the Hollywood adaptation, like you said. He thought of himself as a jokester, and he kept his sense of humor throughout his life. Uh, One of my favorite aspects about him is that he jokingly used the Italian phrase that the devil isn't worth a cigarette butt. And this would come up even in exorcisms where he'd say, "Shut up, you're not worth a cigarette butt." And, just constantly that, blase attitude about evil because he had such confidence that the good could overcome it.
Right, right. Yeah, probably his most known books are, well, the first ones he did, which were just straight up I think Stories of an Exorcist, and then there's a part two of that, if I'm getting the title right. Basically just pure experience information of his experience. But this book, what I like is that foundational basis of it all, as you kind of mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
What does it say about the interior life? Because he even gets into that, kind of equating them with like muscles.
Yes, he talks about how we have to build up the interior life the same way we build up muscles. He's borrowing from St. Paul, who often used athletic metaphors, running the race to win the crown and things like that. So for Father Amorth, the way you build up these spiritual muscles is by practice, the same way you build up regular muscles. If you want to get big muscles, you have to lift or you have to do exercise frequently. So it's true with the spiritual life. You have to pray constantly. You have to take advantage of the sacraments, confession, the Eucharist, and all that, because they teach us not only to learn what Christ looks like and learn what his love looks like, it helps us to endure the big trials that all of us are going to have to go through eventually.
What's fascinating too is that he gets really into concrete issues like the family, how the
Yes.
presence of the father also can thwart the presence of the demonic. If you could talk a little bit about that and kind of one of the chapters titles, which is interesting, is "Do not resist evil." I think, let me see if that's right. Do not resist the evil one. So, sure, what does he mean by that? Or well, I don't know if he said that explicitly. I don't remember him. I remember reading that, but I'm sure
No,
it has some logic to it. But yeah.
he has a he has a philosophy that to defeat evil, to really resist it, you have to overcome it with the good, which is one of the powers God has,
Mhm. Right.
that he can bring good out of evil. Most, of course, he showed us that on the crucifixion. An evil act done unjustly to an innocent man. What does God do? He uses that to save the entire human race. Well, those who will accept, anyways. But for the human race, he does this salvific act of something that horrific and evil. So Father Amorth tells people that's how you have to do it as parents, as priests, as people of faith. This includes a lot of things such as, again, regular prayer, going to the sacraments. He always stresses that foundation, but he also emphasizes the traditions we've all taught ourselves. At one point, he talked about like how many traditions of the family we've lost, such as the hunt, the ritual from boyhood to manhood, the ways that we would from generation to generation pass down our values are just not there anymore.
Mhm.
So he calls on parents to remember that they are real, the safeguards for bringing the faith from one generation to another. They're the most important, and the best way they can do that is by examples, and especially the hard examples the Bible calls us to, like turning the other cheek, to show basically our enemy that you don't have any effect on me, you do not have the power over me. Uh, Not repaying their evil with more evil or vengeance, to remember that God is the one who will bring about all vengeance and rectitude. It's not our place. And it's a hard thing for a Christian to learn. Always the hard things, because whatever evil's done to us, we always have that instinct to want to repay it back. Someone slaps me, I'm going to slap him back.
Right.
You know, but of course, Christ called us to something higher.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how God can, in a sense, through our in his grace, through our putting up, taking that evil, responding with love, we can save that person who, well,
Mm-hmm.
God saves him through us through love, right? As like Maria Goretti, like our last interview we did, is a perfect
Yes,
example of that, how both of them ended up in heaven. So it's really the arms are love. So I love these questions though. Like one of these questions, how should a Christian behave with those who are evil? I think it is down the same path. I'll just read really a little bit. St. Paul, convinced
please.
that Christians are the blessed beneficiaries of God's grace, exhorts us to act in an unrelentingly constructive manner, striving to reflect as closely as possible to the beneficent and blessing action of the Lord. He presents to the Christians of Corinth the magnificent hymn to love, emphasizing that love does not rejoice at wrong. So it's basically essentially what you're saying: conquer evil, do not be conquered by evil, but conquer evil with good. Essentially, going down that line. So, what I like though, what exorcists do is that they don't, because of original sin, its effects, the concupiscence, we tend to overstress evil and see evil
Mm-hmm.
as like an eye candy. What I like about this book and how we should focus on, and this is what exorcists do, even in the exorcism, focus on the good, focus on the workings of God, right? So if you wanted to say
Exactly.
comment on that, because I think that is what kind of was pervasive in the book.
No, in fact, in previous books, and he touches on it a little bit here in this book, Father Amorth always has to caution people that the most common attack the devil will ever launch on you is temptation. It's monotonous, as Father Amorth notes. The devil is just straight monotonous. He does the same tricks on us again and again because it works, part mostly. He doesn't have to do any of the flashy shows. He can just tempt us with our own computer sense and make us want to go for the things that we already have an internal desire for, and to choose them over the good that we should choose. And even St. Paul suffered with that to burden and all that. But it's a nice reminder from Father Amorth that, evil at the end of the day, like Augustine would say, is a lack. It's lacking the good. It can't create anything of its own. Only God's love can create and renew.
Yeah, there's more of a statement in the interview where, I mean, he's talking in a very optimistic, positive way, especially about Christian love. And then the interviewer says,
Mm-hmm.
"Father, you're offering a utopian vision." In a sense, it is. I mean, in a sense, it's the type of a sound utopianism that really,
Mm-hmm.
if we can imbue the world in God, right, through love, imbue the world with love in God, then really, that's really what the devil wants. I mean, the devil, and this is what Father Amorth really stresses, the devil just wants us to reject love. Is that not essentially what the devil wants, especially through the ordinary attacks and through the extraordinary as well?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what the devil wants us to do. Even going back, as Father Morth points out, to the Garden of Eden, what's the temptation they are bringing is to reject God's creative order and to think that we can be on his level, that we might even know better than him what's good for us. And to that goes back through all of our first parents, through all of humanity, that the devil wants us to say, okay, I don't need to listen to him. I don't need to embrace God's love. I can do this. My love is strong enough to conquer all, and that's, well, not true.
Yeah, yeah, that's how it is. Just going back to the kind of his suggestions, you can say, for the family. It's interesting how he does focus on raising up children, how important it is, how parents have that obligation, fundamental
Mhm.
obligation, which the devil wants to to put obstacles towards, to bringing up their children in a godly way. We have forgotten, like according to Pius the 11th, I believe, wrote that the Casti Connubii, that the main goal of parents is to obviously procreate. You have the unitive aspect, but the procreate in order to create souls to glorify God, so that you want to fill heaven ultimately. So, how does how do parents, like, what does he say about parents and educators regarding children and kind of preparing them for a fight ultimately in this church militant that we find ourselves in?
Yes. First, he says is that you have to practice patience, namely the patience to begin again and again, because that's ultimately what all sacraments are about. When we sin, when we fall down, when we fail to live up to our ideals, we have confession. In confession, we're always told to go and sin no more. And it's again starting once more, to use the athletic metaphors. You have to, when you fall down, get up again and continue on as if you didn't just collapse and embarrass yourself. And so he calls for parents to first do that, to have patience to begin again and again. And then he also calls them to, of course, act as the exemplars of the Christian life. This is, I think, a lot of parents don't realize how closely their children are watching them. I remember distinctly some of the virtues my parents practiced, especially of kindness and charity towards others. And that had a huge impact on me. They didn't have to sit me down and go, "This is what we do. We give food to our neighbors when they're hungry. You know that, right?" They just did it. And I saw them do it. And that will be a far more powerful impact than anything you can show them on TV.
Right, right, yeah. Um, no, that's, yeah, very well said. And that's something to consider, that as adults that people are watching us, and much more of religious, those who are religious or priests. I mean, you have to
Hmm.
be very
Hmm.
careful what you do. I tell my students, because I teach sisters, and I tell them that people are watching you doubly. All right, they're watching you a lot more than they're watching just a regular layman. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
so why do people emphasize the devil? I think that's one of the questions in the interview. I believe
Yes,
when asked in the
especially towards the beginning when he was talking about his life as a newspaper journalist.
right.
The bad news sells. We like to hear calamities and trials and things that go insane. So, it will be far more likely we'll report on a war than a new advancement in cancer research. That's something in us that just really loves to hear about the chaos. And thus, it takes great strength to have to focus on the good. Amorth actually even recommends that as one of the ways to fight evil is to remember the good, to delight in the good, rather than focus and obsess over the evil that is going on. Learn to delight in the good, to thank God for the good things in our life. Which, yeah, I know for me that's a hard thing to do. As a pessimistic person, I have to constantly remind myself to give gratitude for even the simple things that I take for granted, like life and sunshine and great weather we're having today, and
Yeah,
the sacraments themselves.
yeah. And we become numb to that sometimes. We're just,
We
used to it.
do.
So it's
Mhm.
and it's what does he say about the Freemasonry? Because they ask him about that, and
Yes.
yeah, if you can, I don't know if that's a spoiler, but maybe not.
Oh, I it's a bit of a spoiler, but I think we could
Right.
talk about it.
Yeah.
For one, Freemasonry in Italy has an interesting history to it that I can't. I almost want to put it on a full PowerPoint presentation for your audience, but
Mm.
yeah, there's a lot of political intrigue going on in the 19th and 20th centuries involving Freemasonry, up to and including trying to infiltrate the church. And he outright calls it a satanic organization, one that is bent on destroying the church. And he could have pointed to 1,000 examples. He could have pointed to Propaganda Due, which was an organization that had infiltrated the Catholic Church in the 20th century,
Mhm.
as well as members of international groups, and all with the point of trying to take over the politics of Italy and the church. And there's all these organizations, so he was very pointed to call it a corrupt organization, but also pointing out that people might flock to it in other occult things because they have a lack in their lives that this is filling.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because where the presence of good is basically where we have the greatest good, you also have the greatest evil to kind of counteract
Mm-hmm.
that. So in the church, it would make sense, especially in Rome, right there where the seat of the church is. You would have this countering of just a greater presence of evil. So I remember, I was reminded when you said 20th century of Maximilian Kolbe, Saint Maximilian Kolbe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw or heard of they had a procession there, the Freemasons that the Pope will, and maybe you know this more exactly what it said, but the Pope will be a slave of Satan or something like that. Or so they were really, I mean, really active and very explicit in
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I remember that. So that's really interesting. That connection between Freemasonry and evil, kind of like Freemasonry, which is what makes it scary. It's kind of like temptation in the sense that it's veiled under the banner of good, right? They're very philanthropic,
Exactly.
naturalistic. So, but deep down, with the denial of truth, really being relativist, even though they're deists, which is almost like anything goes, you see the evil lurking there. Without the belief in objective truth, I mean, you just can't establish a good. So it's really fascinating how, and it's scary too. A lot of people see Freemasons doing good things, and they say, "Oh, there's a good organization." So yeah, I like to.
Many of our founding fathers were Freemasons here in America.
That's right.
So, it's easy for us to see it as a good organization because of the charitable deeds. They talk about freedom and freedom of expression and things like that. But
Right.
as John Paul II said, freedom is not being allowed to do everything. It's to enable us to do the things we ought to do.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's there was a distinction though between like the French Freemasons and the English Freemasons.
Exactly.
They weren't explicitly Catholic, but they had those anti-Catholic principles. Even though
Hmm.
the French ones were more like just more explicitly anti-God and anti-Catholic or anti-theistic. So yeah, so this is fascinating with Amorth here, and they even ask him, "Are you afraid of the devil?" And I find it fascinating how God allows the existence of the devil and uses him in order to sanctify the saints. So in a sense, me and you will get to heaven thanks to Satan in a sense, because God allows him for the purification of souls. So I like how they ask him, "Are you afraid of him?" He's like, "No, not really." It kind of goes down that line. I don't know if you want to explain or if you,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he had been asked that question many times in different interviews, and he once said, "It's not the devil who's afraid of me. It's no, it's not I that's afraid of the devil. It's the devil who's afraid of me,"
right.
because he was so protected by the Virgin Mary. He really did not feel any fear in those moments of the exorcism when he would encounter the devil. But the devil's power and ability to come to corrupt the good can always be met by more good, that we can always rejoice even in our sufferings because we know that they're purifying us and making us saints. So yes, the devil will ultimately be defeated by even his own ideas when he tortures, say, Padre Pio or the Cura de Ars with physical torments or hallucinations or things of that nature that these saints suffered from. They become holier, they become stronger in their faith. And then not only that, Padre Pio and the Cura de Ars, how many of us go to them with our prayers and our needs and have become better Christians because of their holy example?
Right. No, that's how it is. So it's just a whole this book again, excellent here. We don't want to go through each question, so you guys get it. Not very thick, but there is a lot in here. But it's about 150 pages, but I think it's a little less. And this is it's one of the pictures of him sticking his tongue. You can see. So it's it
Once again, he always had a sense of humor, even to the end. Patients who saw him for exorcism said that before the exorcism, he would joke with them. He was almost like a uncle sort of way, very, very amicable and loving, but he got very serious when it came time for the exorcism.
It seems like the exorcists need that because they're kind of labeled as the black sheep for precisely for this extreme gravitas that's applied to them. So this is
Mm-hmm.
one priest, I think he's from Indiana. I forget his name. He actually spoke in Seton Hall, near where I live here in New Jersey, and he said that after exorcisms, he goes to Baskin Robbins and gets like a chocolate shake. He said, "What do I do after my exorcisms? I get a chocolate shake." And and he says he walks in there all sweaty, and then there's so many people there, and he says, "Well, if these people had known where I've been, the line, because there's a lot that
Wow.
usually goes there, he said the people were just apart, and so yeah, it's really that human side is what I think is kind of like an antidote for them that kind of grounds them, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you can just focus on that negativity in the sense that the battle, of course, we have a battle, but sometimes we do need a little bit of that lightness, right? In a sense to make light of it, or if not, it's gonna consume us, as you mentioned, the pessimism. I think that
Mm-hmm.
pessimism can definitely consume us. So yeah, get this book, and yeah, I'll give you the last word, Michael, if you want to say anything else regarding this book. But it's a whole range of topics.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting, and it's not. I mean, there are like anecdotes here also. That it's interesting. It's a little bit of everything. So yeah, last word for you.
Sure. I would just like to say that Father Morth is always a joy to read. I love reading all his books, whether he's talking about exorcisms or in this book, he's just talking about how do we resist the ordinary actions of the devil and his temptations. It's always worth reading. His humor comes through wonderfully in not only the pictures in this book, as you showed, but also in some of his phrases and just the way he words things. And I think something he does, that human side, that jovial side of him, for a lot of exorcists that I've heard about or read about, it seems to also keep them humble because they have to remember it's not them that's doing the work, it's God ultimately who makes this possible. And the wonderful thing, as Father Amorth points out again and again, is as long as we're on God's side, we have no reason to not only fear evil, we don't even have to pay it any mind.
Right. That's right. That's right. Like Saint Teresa of Avila had the devil like a fly, right? He's like a
Yeah.
annoying fly, right? So exactly. All right. Well, again, the link will be posted on the bottom to get this book from Sophia Press. And until next time, Michael, thanks for coming on, and God bless all of
Oh, thank you so much. It was wonderful joining you, Dr. Gonzalez.
you. Great. Thank you, sir.